So, I mean, there would be things where my children will demand my time, and I'm very busy. They will demand my time. And it will trigger the little girl in me who was in boarding school.
Oh my God.
And my parents didn't have time for us. They were working. They were trying to make money to pay for these expensive boarding schools.
Absolutely.
And to sustain a lifestyle. And so the quick reaction from the adult me will be, you better be grateful. At least you have more than I had.
Absolutely.
At least I am here.
Yeah.
But they really want me to be present. So now I need to go back to the little girl me and say, little girl, you needed actually your parents to be present, not necessarily to be physically there most of the time, but to be present, to spend time with you 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when people, I think, to be remembered as unconventional, but like I did it. I paved my own path. I created my own blueprint for myself. I did it my way,
Sure.
Unapologetically so.
Sure. Hi guys, welcome to today's episode of Mental Health and Motherhood with Boledi. I am joined by an incredible woman today, but before we get into that, please don't forget to like this video before you watch, comment down below, let us know what you think of the conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell for next time when we upload. So today I am joined by an incredible, amazing woman, an inspiring woman who embraces being unconventional. We're going to talk about that. She is an award-winning entrepreneur, a strategic creative producer. She is also a Juno digital doula and the founder of Art of Superwoman. Olwethu Leshabane. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Listen, I've been looking forward to having you on this platform. I am so excited right now. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I know we've been trying to do this for a while.
For over a year, I think.
Yeah.
But you know what? I believe in timing. So I'd like to believe that the timing is right.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Absolutely.
I believe that people are a great deal of their childhood, right? What we become has to do a lot with our childhood. And just looking at you maneuver your life, you seem like a very intuitive person. You seem like just someone who carries such a big soul, if you'd allow me to say that. How was that growing up? Where does that come from?
Wow, what a question. I think I wouldn't say or I wouldn't really attribute who I am entirely to my childhood. But there's a lot of my mom would always say I'd always try and parent my own siblings. I was the eldest of three from my mom and my dad, and I was always that child parenting. And I'm also a Cancer,
I'm a Cancer, so I get it. Yeah.
So very motherly, very huge motherly instinct. And I also think a lot of my upbringing in the Seventh-day Adventist Church really attributed to just wanting to just always hold certain values and always wanting to I guess as a Seventh-day Adventist, when you grow up Seventh-day Adventist, there's a certain outlook that you have to life.
Absolutely.
And then you move outside of the church.
Yeah.
And you grow up and you realize there's just so much more to explore.
Absolutely.
And so part of my childhood is that. And then a part of it is also healing from that childhood of only seeing things from one perspective and trying to then open up my mind to so many more perspectives, so many more ideas of the world, so much more about the world. And then also just I think being raised by young parents and parents that would, were also on their own growth. I mean, now I know,
Yeah,
before the healing, you think, my parents failed me on so many things. And yes, perhaps they did fail at certain things because they just weren't aware. They didn't know what they didn't know. But then healing through those things and healing through those certain levels of, I grew up with my parents, and there's certain things that I experienced that perhaps a child should not have experienced or been exposed to at a young age, but it is what it is. They didn't know better when they were on the journey as well.
Absolutely. And there's just also something that happens when you become a parent,
Yeah.
and realize that you are also just really winging it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I need to give grace to my parents, right?
Absolutely.
I love that you speak about just healing from childhood, right? Because it's one of the things that I wanted to dive into. When was a time when you realized that, sure, I think I might be going through things that I might need to recover from, or was it later on in life, or was it when you were growing and obviously the parents are also growing as well?
I think a bit of both. My particular parents later would divorce, but I think it's a bit of both. It's also got to do with awareness. If you aren't self-aware, you really ever think there's anything to move through or to heal through or to work on. So with the self-awareness of kind of knowing, okay, this moment is triggering something in me. What is it? Introspect on it. And we don't always have the answers. Absolutely. But when you have somebody to talk to, like a therapist, you can kind of articulate whatever you are feeling, and they can help you kind of attribute certain things to patterns, behaviors, perhaps triggers, traumas, and then you kind of formulate a language for certain things and a path. So I guess it's both journeys of young, older, also kind of repetitive behaviors, generational traumas that we heal through. I'm hugely spiritual as well in that, whatever anyone that came before me did not heal from, there's a certain aspect of it that will be in me that I need to also work on and heal from. And this is, it's honoring that and honoring moving through those things, embracing the darkness that comes with it, but also finding the light and trying to get through, not staying in it.
Sure, I get that. And I'm sorry about your parents' divorce. Obviously, that's one of the things that, as children, like you said, when that happens and when you are young, it's not easy to understand what's going on. So I'm sorry about that. But I want to just, because we talk a lot about traumas, right? Traumas, childhood traumas. But for someone who's at home and they don't know what are some of the things that could end up in childhood traumas, how would you just say those are? What would you say those are? And obviously, I know that's broad.
It's so broad.
Yeah.
I mean, trauma can be something so small, but it can be something so big. Trauma can be, something suppressed. It can also be something you're aware of. And I mean, for me, my parents' divorce was probably not as traumatic as other things I experienced earlier on or throughout my life. I mean, I was 21, about to get married when my parents were going through a divorce. So I was aware. I was also able to process a lot of things and realize that they're better off, separate than they are together. So, there's a level of self-awareness in that, whereas my younger siblings were probably not there, So they have a different kind of trauma to it also. It's really not blanket. Trauma is not something that you can blanket and say, this is trauma. Trauma could literally be those moments when you really, you had a soccer game or a netball game, and everybody's parents were there, or you felt like everybody's parents were there, but yours. Trauma can be those lonely moments when you walk across the stage at school and it's prize giving and you're receiving all these amazing prizes, but your parents are not there. Trauma can also be, there's, it's so broad, sexual traumas. There is trauma of an accident that happened. My son, I mean, right now, he went through a big accident last year, and his recovery journey has been a bigger trauma than the actual accident itself. So there are so many emotional traumas. It's so broad. But it's understand, when you understand the broader picture, you understand what you are going through, you understand your context. Some of us have so many suppressed traumas as well.
Absolutely.
That you don't see come up until something triggers it, that kind of makes you feel like, okay, where's this emotion coming from?
Yeah.
Trauma can be, something, you see something in somebody.
Absolutely.
And you react in anger, frustration, jealousy. But you don't understand there's a suppressed trauma in you that's making you react in that way.
Sure.
Or you see somebody that you revere, but it turns to frustration, anger, jealousy, and maybe even spite. But you don't understand where that trigger is coming from. There may be a suppressed trauma in you. There may be, I spoke about it on my Instagram the other day, relationship with your mother.
Yes.
That triggers a trauma that you have between yourself and your mother, that makes you react a certain way to how you have relationships with other women.
Yeah.
It's so broad.
Sure.
But it's, for me, the most important thing is being able to find a language. When I can sit in my things and have a language for it, I'm able to properly, I think I formulated an amazing relationship with myself where I'm able to sit with myself and say, okay, what is this now? Olwethu, okay, so where's this coming from, Olwethu?
Yeah.
Do you want to journal it, or do you want to sit in a bath and talk to yourself about it? And maybe my car rides are also one of those conversations. I'll turn the volume down on my radio and I'll really talk to myself, okay, how you acted in that meeting, or how something made you feel. Where's that coming from? Is it something, is it you, is it internal, or is it something that you need to address?
Sure. I love that. I love that that level of self-awareness, right? Because not everybody has that, like you say. When did you become self-aware?
I think it's when I realized, for example, I have an amazing husband. I've got beautiful and amazing children. And if I'm not self-aware over the ways in which I'm going to bleed onto them and my own traumas and my own triggers, then I could lose it. I could lose the amazing things that I have. I could lose the goodness of everything around me if I'm not aware, or when I'm made aware. Because sometimes you also, you don't see yourself.
Yes.
If I'm made aware and I don't realize that there's things that I need to deal with.
Sure.
I could lose them. And it's far more than material possessions, right? I could lose myself. I could lose my integrity. I could lose my sense of self. I could lose my joy. I could lose my bliss. And so when you know that there's so much more to lose if I don't sit in my own things and actually deal with them, you then don't work on the things that really could be triggers and traumas and ways in which you are bleeding onto others that just don't deserve it.
Sure. Would you say, because I can relate to getting married younger, right, and having kids younger. I got married at 21, had my first child at 22. And would you say that getting married and having kids, just put a mirror here?
Girl. So much.
Sure.
Oh, so much. Because your children will embody certain characters of yourself.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are people in our lineage that didn't heal from certain things, and obviously they get passed down. When they're like,
sure.
When ufana no makhulu wakho,
yeah.
When is your stubbornness ngeska tamkhulu wakho,
yeah.
When are your, there's certain things that you carry, and when you don't heal from them, or perhaps they skip you and they get into they're in your kids, or they're you and your kids, and they mirror you, and you see yourself. I see myself so much in every little aspect of all my children.
Yeah.
There's aspects of them where I'm just like, this is me. I need to work on that so that when they see themselves and it mirrors back to them as they get older, they can also say, okay, mom dealt with that in a different way.
Yes.
So I try to make a concerted effort to do that. It's not always easy. It's never easy. Because it's easy. The easier route out, I think, in a lot of things is to be hurtful, to be abrasive, to push things away, to dismiss them.
Yeah. And just build a wall.
You know, I find myself so often just wanting to shut down into my corner, get into my bath and just sit in my own things and deal with it internally. But there comes a time when you also need to, you know, you need to talk. You need to be collaborative. I need to be collaborative with my husband now in being able to raise the children. When I see myself in certain behaviors, when he sees himself in certain behaviors, it's an openness, it's a flow. And they also sometimes don't know better. Yeah. So, it's a lot.
I love that you mentioned that you see yourself in them, right? Because I was reading somewhere and they were saying that the child in you, when you have not healed, the child in you reacts to the child in the other person.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you are really like harboring, you know, emotions like anger and all of that, what happens in moments where kids are just being kids and they are frustrated?
Absolutely.
Sure.
And it's also okay to allow the child in you to surface.
Okay.
I, in most cases, do allow the child in me to surface.
That's a hard one.
And it's also you know, some of us were adultified at young ages.
Absolutely.
And so when you allow the child in you to surface, sometimes you'll dig there and you'll find that there's certain things and a certain step maybe the child in you skipped, wasn't allowed to be, wasn't allowed to feel, or you were told to get over things, whereas you needed a way to process what you were going through, what you were feeling. So, I mean, there would be things where my children will demand my time and I'm very busy. They will demand my time. And it will trigger the little girl in me who was in boarding school.
Oh my God.
And my parents didn't have time for us. They were working. They were trying to make money to pay for these expensive boarding schools.
Absolutely.
And to sustain a lifestyle. And so the quick reaction from the adult me will be, you better be grateful. At least you have more than I had.
Absolutely.
At least I am here. Yeah. But they really want me to be present. So now I need to go back to the little girl me and say, little girl you needed actually your parents to be present, not necessarily to be physically there most of the time, but to be present, to spend time with you. So, I mean, a kid could simply be wanting to have a movie night and,
absolutely,
you know, hot chocolate and just time with mom and dad. And, you know, sometimes we get so caught up in this idea that when children demand to spend time with us or want to spend time with us or want our time, it's like this.
Yeah.
Okay, now talk to me. And it's not necessarily that, it's not necessarily that. It's the knowing that you are here for me. And it's those underlying things of just knowing that I can just lie on a bed with cuddles and, you know, popcorn and just be. Yeah. And just know that you are there, you are present. And, you know, for a long time, I'd always think to myself, it's quantity over quality. It's quality over quantity. And it's not about the amount of time you spend with children. It's about the quality in the amount of time you spend with children. And that confused that with it needs to be sitting down and talking. It needs to be sitting down and having a lunch and catching up over the week or the day and it's really, there's really no yes or no. There's no right or wrong in doing it. Yeah. It's just about being with our children. It's about just, you know, do the things that they just blissfully want to do. Get on the floor and play Lego. Yeah. You know, you get down and, you know, allow them to climb on your back if you don't have back problems. You know, just be. Take off your shoes when you get home from work. And just be with your children. And that's really just what children and what I know I yearned for as well.
Yeah.
And I think in the journey of it all, it's just relearning. I talk about this a lot, but just the journey of reparenting yourself as well, alongside as you parent your children. And the things that you feel embarrassed to do, a lot of moms will come into my DM and say, you know what I struggle with? I struggle with playing with my children because I feel like it's the most ridiculous thing ever.
Yeah.
I struggle with really where do I even start? How do I start to play? And it's, what did you yearn for? What did you want as a child? That's the beginning of your own reparenting journey.
Sure.
As you play with the Lego, as you doing the most ridiculous things, making funny sounds, and you've got the tiger in your hand and they've got the elephant, and the tiger and the elephant are talking, creating stories. As you're reading to them going off on a trail because they saw a picture in the book and telling their own story of what they think is happening in the book, and you going along with it and creating the story. That's the form of therapy for yourself and reparenting yourself as well. And so I had to just learn to be patient with myself, give grace to myself, and be kind to myself along that journey, because there's so much, I think, shame in it too, right?
Yeah.
And when we introduce shame, we almost want to shy away from just dealing with it.
Yeah.
There's so much shame in we were told from young ages,
Yeah.
get over it. There's so much
God.
shame in being childlike. There's so much shame in certain things, and then when you don't own your shame, and you feel like when there's moments where it triggers it, you want to pack it away and not have to deal with it. And so I think a lot more of us just need to take a lot more ownership over our own moments of shame, and at the root of it, what are you so scared of being exposed? What is it that you're scared of?
That is a valid
exposing?
question. That is a valid question.
And when you figure out that it's just you dealing with you that you're scared of, it's got nothing to do with anybody else, because nobody else can own your story. It is what it is. It's like you get over it.
Sure. That is so powerful. And I think that's it right there, right? That we are so scared of dealing with what's not familiar. For a child that didn't get, a parent playing with them, you feel like, I don't know this, so we are so scared to go into those territories where we don't know what we are doing. Would you say, what you yearned for, which, like you are saying, is just that quality time, it has informed how you take time to just be with your kids and do all this? Because, you seem to be intentional about spending time with your kids.
I am intentional. I don't get a lot of time because we're so busy most of the time with my husband and I. But when we are, we get immersed. And a lot of it, yes, is informed by, I think, my parents tried their best. They did what they could. Really, they did. And there were the other aspects of things that we yearned for as children. And they were on their own journey. Even their parents did their best.
Absolutely.
And they only took what they knew was right and what parenting looked like, and they passed it on. But when you know better, you do better as well. And then, you kind of then work on that. And I'm sure my children too will say my parents did their best. But there were other things that they missed out on, and this is why therapy is great for kids too.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think we need to normalize that, right? Because we are on a journey. And how do you then balance that, right? The busy schedules versus making sure you get that time. How do you work that out? Although balance is actually non-existent, but how do you work around that?
I don't think we've quite worked around it. It's literally, I always say balance. You are the balance. You create your own balance. You create your own idea of what balance looks like. In the same way, there's no one idea of what taking care of yourself looks like, or what self-care looks like, or, it's, my husband and I will say, cool, this weekend, I have an open weekend. You have an open weekend. Amazing, great. Saturday, let's go away for the night. We're gonna go spend a weekend away at this particular place. We're gonna have time with the boys. Wake up in the morning, we'll do an activity all together. Cool, great. During the week we have a Wednesday. We're not gonna work. Let's go out for dinner with the boys, or let's have a movie night at home. So it's just creating. What we try our best to do is create pockets. And we love memories.
That.
Like I'm obsessed with creating memories, like things that stick to kids. Because I also notice my kids love storytelling. So they'll always be like, remember that time when we did this? So I'm huge on like memories, because I've also noticed my kids attach things to memories. They attach feelings to memories. So we talk openly about feelings and what feelings are there, and how they attach memory to feelings. And so I guess it's really formulated around that, the way that we spend time with our kids.
Sure, I love that. It's so beautiful what welcoming growth, welcoming healing can do for the next generation and so many more people to come, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, because I'm thinking about it and I'm just like, what if you had decided that, listen, I don't know what that is. I didn't get much of that. I'm not going to do that,
It's quite, and I've been contrary. It may seem like it's the easier way to deal with things. And yes, fundamentally, perhaps on a simplistic level, it may be the easier way to deal with things. But it's actually the hardest route to take, is to say, I didn't get what you're asking for. I don't have anything to give you. But people die inside because of that, and closing off the idea of there are ways to heal, and there is a way in which we can move through the things that we've been through and be able to get to the other side of something and be like, whoo, did you see? Like, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, sure. I want to dip into your motherhood journey. Would you say it introduced you to a different version of yourself?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it really opened me up to how selfless and selfish I can be.
I love the honesty.
I can be selfless and want to give my children all that I have, but there's also, it can really teach you how selfish you can be. And I don't say, selfish in the sense that it's okay to demand things for yourself too.
Absolutely.
And not want to give everything of yourself. To, like, I don't want to crash and burn to keep my children warm. Like, that's not my vibe.
I get you.
That's not my parenting vibe.
Yeah.
So for a long time in my upbringing, I was willing to crash and burn to keep others warm.
Sure.
And so parenting taught me that it serves no one.
Yeah.
It serves absolutely no one. Because once I crash and burn, then things will still be waiting for me to recover and to get back up, and things are piling up back home. So I think parenting has really just elevated that for me. It hasn't, I wouldn't say it's changed my or changed who I am. My perspective has been changed by the journey of parenting. The more my children grow up and become even bigger triggers, raise the mirror to me, call me out on things, the more my husband and I go through the parenting journey where we're both tested, pushed, and are forced to deal with things. My husband and I come from very different backgrounds. He lost his father when he was very young. So to him, it's also got to do with, how do I define parenting for myself? How do I define being a dad for myself? But also, how do I contextualize what fatherhood looks like from what I've seen growing up?
Yeah.
And then I'm also just like, I dealt with, trying to contextualize what does being an individual in a marriage, being a mom, being a wife, my husband being a very different person to what my father was. So it's all, you kind of just wrapping your mind around it without wanting to impose as well on the next person's journey, which is my husband. So it is complex.
Yeah.
It is complex. So you grow through that, you become through that, you evolve through that journey. Whilst on the other side of things, you're just also like, it has really elevated that I can be an amazingly selfish person, but I can also have pockets of selflessness where I'm like, I really want to give you the world. So I think, I also want to give my children just the best in life and be able to create spaces where they have amazing opportunities, things that are conducive for them, and also be able to, I don't want to say to enable, but to create safe space within the home, within their life, where they feel like they're empowered on their journey, so I think that's the selfless part of who I am. Like I will do anything to be able to know that my children have what they need when they need it for their journey.
Sure. And that, I think that shows, from the snippets, obviously, that we see of your motherhood journey, that shows, that comes across. But I wanna speak on the selfishness, right? Because that's a very important thing to have as well. Because if you don't, you can easily lose yourself in motherhood. You can find yourself in a position where you don't even know who you are outside of the role. How important is that aspect of selfishness?
I think it is important. Like selfish in, like, for my own context, I embrace it as a positive thing, to a certain extent. I mean, if it starts infringing on and affecting other people around you and affecting how other people move around you, of course, it's not the good kind of selfish, because it is the other kind of selfish. But I'm a firm believer, and I've kind of also switched the word self-care around for myself, in that self-care isn't necessarily the negative kind of selfish, but it is, self-care can be a kind of selfish that is for me, right? And that can really take care of my internal needs and have my own needs met. And I had to start off by understanding and really defining, what do I need to feel loved? What do I need to feel valued? What do I need to thrive? And so it had to, I had to then start segmenting in terms of, okay, what do I need to feel loved, to thrive, to have my needs met in the context of my marriage, in the context of my parenting journey, in the context of my career, in the context of other relationships around me. And then you start working on, what are things that have started or used to or are defining these journeys for me? What are the things that affected the way that I viewed these journeys? And so then you have to start learning to start being, you have to be selfish with yourself.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize yourself. You have to be unapologetic about wanting the best for yourself. In the same way, you may have a friend, or you want the best for your children, or I was like, I wish so well for other people. Like, I revere people. I'm that person who, like, stop anywhere, and if I love you and I embrace you, I will hold your hand and I will pray for you, and I will just revere you in that moment. But do you do that for yourself? Do I do it for myself? I need to learn to do that for myself, and I'm so unapologetic about it. My husband knows when I say, I don't work on Mondays. I don't work on Mondays, because that's my time to really remind myself, you're badass, Olwethu.
Yeah.
And really get down on my knees and be so grateful to God for creating me in the way that I am. It's my time to honor all the goodness in me, and also honor all the things and the triggers and the things that I need to work on. It's a time to also just immerse and take care of myself and practice the tangible ways of self-care. but also practice that self-care on the things that I need to work on in the week going forward. So that's my idea of really owning my selfish and owning my self-care all in one.
I love that. I think all in all, what I'm getting from that is it's alignment, right? Making sure you are aligned, because so much happens. You find yourself just winging it.
Yeah.
You constantly need to bring yourself closer to yourself. Make sure mind, body, spirit, you are together.
Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely love that.
Absolutely.
You are doing great in your space, right? How difficult or easy was it after Malik to just go, listen, I'm going for everything I'm coming for? And I'm talking Art of Superwoman, just pursuing your work with being a digital doula, but also everything else that you are doing.
I think the yearning was always there. I just also think that, God's timing and also the way God works, man, is just absolutely amazing. I don't think the things were set into motion. I was ready pre Malik, I would say. But I think at that time and the level of spiritual growth, the level of physical growth, and the level of emotional maturity I'd gone through throughout the journey of raising my two children, being pregnant with Malik, taking ownership over my body was such a significant thing for me throughout my pregnancy journey, and not having anybody dictate how I would give birth, where I would give birth, not even allowing my husband to dictate it to me or to be influenced in the decision making, though I had to collaborate with him in that decision making. He was very much part of the journey, but I had to say, this is how I want to do things. How do we work together in how I'd like to do things? That for me was, that pivotal moment was so important for how I would then start owning things in future. And I did that. I did that, and whether or not I would have come out successful in how I wanted to give birth, or my journey of my pregnancy, or how I wanted to do my journey pregnant, I knew that I finally spoke up and advocated for myself and my body, and I prayed about it. And each time I prayed about it, I'd walk out of my prayer space and I'd be like, yeah, man, I got this, and this child is like, he came to really just teach me a lesson in taking ownership over myself, and a lesson in being able to advocate for myself and raise my voice louder in spaces, in rooms, not to be afraid. The biggest, the worst thing that I feared was no. And I was like, even that, there's a reason why the word no exists anyway. It must be used somehow, somewhere. So that's when I was, I just took more control over myself, my being, and I grew and I blossomed. But you know what I loved the most in that journey? I remember fearing the growth and the becoming, because the biggest fear that I had along that time was, I'm growing so much, I'm becoming so much. Is my husband going to think that I changed? Is he going to think like, what is going on? Has she changed? And I love my husband, like, I love him way too much. And so that fear was so palpable. Is he going to think I've changed? Is he going to think something is amiss with this person? Is he going to be able to rise up to the level of change and evolution that I'm going through? And so I was like, since I'm here, might as well have the conversation. And that's usually the tough part, right? How do you even say to a person, I'm changing, I'm evolving? Will you be able to rise up to the occasion? Or, are you comfortable? Is this okay? And funny enough, he was so like, I knew who I was marrying. I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew the potential that you had. I was just waiting for you to come into it.
Oh my God.
And so that was so affirming on the journey to say, okay, cool. This is exactly where I need to be. Now let me just lean into that journey, lean into that, the growth and the evolution of who Olwethu is becoming. And that's literally been the story of our lives. And I think throughout our journey has been the story of our lives. And I think he was just waiting for me to articulate that, yo, man, I'm leveling up. And each time I feel like, hey, I'm leveling up again, I'm like, yo, I'm leveling up. And he's like, cool, where to from here? Where we going? I love it so much.
That is so powerful, right? Because I'm thinking, fear is so paralyzing. What if you had not taken ownership of your body to begin with? And I think for those watching at home, you had 2 C-sections, right?
2 C-sections, then a natural birth.
Yes, you were like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And the doctors was like, no. And you're like, I'm doing this. If I have to do it at home, that's where I'm doing it. And look at how that just rolled out into your growth, right?
Yeah.
What happens if you don't take that leap of faith? And what happens if you actually decide, I don't want to scare my husband. Let me just sit in this place where I'm uncomfortable. I can feel that it's time to grow, but I'm not going to take it, right?
Yeah.
How beautiful that he's saying, I always knew who I married. And you are out there thinking, what if this scares him?
What if, I just take this leap? And I remember when Oh Baby came up and I'm like, whoa, okay, I knew I'd be doing something in TV.
Yes.
I always said to him, TV and media spaces that I always wanted to be in, but I didn't know how it would come about. So Oh Baby came about and the opportunity came, and I remember saying to him, hey, this is coming up. And I said it so casually. And he was like, yeah, like, duh, of course you.
I've always known.
It's you.
Yeah.
And so it was always so, it's always so amazing when you articulate that, hey, this is where I'm going. And it's met with somebody who's not surprised. And more often than not, there is that one person that is just not surprised at
they're like, I've seen it coming.
I've seen us,
And I think the fact that you always say that, he said, I'd rather leave you better than I found you.
Absolutely. That's when I knew, I'm going to marry this guy.
Love it. And I think what I love, right, for anybody who's watching, I love that it says that sometimes it's truly just us against us. It's you against, your mind. Now, in this growth, do you ever come across, situations where you feel like, okay, I think I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, because you are growing, right? And rapidly so.
I think, I don't know. Do I experience imposter syndrome? Maybe I have bouts of it. Or maybe I've kind of changed the language of what it is, because I feel like the phrase imposter syndrome has been so widely commercialized. I'm not quite sure exactly what it means now in the context of where we're at, because roles, careers, the ways in which we want to be or become as women has so widely changed that no woman should feel like they are not where they want to be. Like, if it doesn't feel right, that should be the problem, not whether or not you're worthy of being in the room.
I love that.
So I think maybe it might trickle in moments where I sit and I think to myself, does this feel right? Not necessarily that, am I worthy of being in the room? I know I'm worthy of being in the room. I worked hard to get into the rooms that I've been in and I am in. But now where I'm at, it's really, does it feel right? Is this really where God wants me to be? Is this really where Spirit wants me to be? Is this something that is preordained?
Sure.
And I sit in it, and I pray about it, especially when things don't feel right. And more often than not, when you pray on things and you sit on it and you meditate on it and you really give it over to God completely before just dashing into things.
Yeah.
they will either resolve themselves out, be
they
removed
do.
from you. And sometimes it's a painful journey, hey?
Yes.
When you really, really wanted something, but you were
Yes.
unsure and you were...
And then it removes
and
itself.
you know that you're worthy of being in those spaces and that thing is for you. And God says,
nah,
I've got better for you. And I sit in that, and I'm okay with those. I'm okay with those moments. They're painful,
yes,
but I'm okay with those moments, and I'm so comfortable with those moments now. Of my whole journey has literally been just God going here. Doing the unconventional things and God going, this is yours, this is your time to do this is your time to do that. And that has been my journey throughout. For it to change now, come on.
I know.
Like,
sure. I love that. I love the fact that you know who you are, whose you are, and, just the fact that you don't get to doubt, being worthy of things. That's such a powerful place to be at. What's your wildest dream right now? Because, I know you've done a lot.
Sure. What is my wildest dream?
Top of your mind. Wake up and you're like, I can't believe it has happened.
I think like my one of my biggest dreams is for Art of Superman to be world recognized.
It's definitely going there.
To be world recognized and to be a platform that is seen and content that is consumed by women across Africa, across the African diaspora, and internationally. To partner with global organizations and really for mother and child initiatives and advocacy to be prioritized. And I'd love to do a lot more work in those spaces where mother and child are prioritized in terms of anything globally, because we're the biggest in the workforce, women.
Yes.
We need to be looked after a lot more. And I think on a very selfish and personal level,
yes, bring it on.
To really settle down on a farm somewhere, to settle down on a farm somewhere. And to just, that's where I'm, I see myself settling down on farms and writing books. I'm going to write children's books. I'm going to write books for women. And that's where I know, eventually that's going to be my, my like, okay, cool. This is where I'm at now.
you know what's beautiful about everything you just said? You are planting the seeds. So it's not far-fetched because you are planting the seeds and you are putting it out there in the universe.
Yeah.
What do you hope for your kids? What are your hopes for your kids? What do you hope, if they forget everything else, what do you hope they remember?
To live beautiful, blissful lives. To live unapologetically. And I just want them to be happy, and I want them to always know that no matter what happens out there in the world, home will always be safe, and it'll be the safest place they can always and forever return to.
Sure, I love that. In 50 years to go, when people read Olwethu Leshabane, what do you hope to be remembered for? Oh my gosh, did I say 50?
50 years
you
ago.
Are very, okay.
50 years from now, 100 years from now. When people, I think to be remembered as unconventional, but like I did it. I paved my own path. I created my own blueprint for myself. I did it my way,
Sure.
Unapologetically so.
Sure. And you are doing it. I absolutely love what you are doing. I cannot wait to see, the things that you are going to come up with. I love how big you go when you go big. You go big, and it's beautiful that you actually have a support structure that allows for that. And I think, our generation and the generation that comes after, needs that, because for the longest time, women were just so confined to the home space, and that is not fair,
But even in that, I'm huge on, if you're amazing at being a homemaker,
And you're
Own
content
it.
with it.
You know, own it. Like, do it so immaculate. I know women that are amazing
Yes.
homemakers, amazing moms. And because we demonize, I think, us as career women, sometimes we find ourselves in spaces where we demonize the idea of a homemaker, somebody who just stays at home and looks after children and looks after the house. And I know amazing women who are beautiful homemakers, are amazing parents, are amazing at creating a beautiful and homely, warm environment for their children and their partners and their families. And, you know, when I think of these women, I think of, you know, where I retreat sometimes when I need to run away from my own children, you know, and own that, own it. I want women out there to own it. If that is you.
I love that.
You are creating beautiful, soft landings for so many other people. Own it. And we need to revere those women and give them their flowers a lot more.
Absolutely. And what, now that you're saying that, a woman that I follow was talking about it, I think 2 days ago, because she's a stay-at-home mom, and she was saying a lot of women will come after you for being a stay-at-home mom. Do you think a lot of us attach titles to ourselves and we demonize that because we are so scared of not having the titles?
I think we fear things that we haven't mastered. We fear things that we're not good at. And when you embrace certain things and you embrace the things that you're not good at, you'll start seeing. I mean, we started in lockdown. I wouldn't say I'm not an amazing homemaker. I think I'm a great homemaker. I'm a great mom, and I'm good at cooking. I love cleaning my home. I love my career as well. I love looking after my husband. But I also had the choice not to do it pre-lockdown, pre-COVID, right? Because I could hire people. Lockdown hits.
Sure.
Now, the things that you called choice are now a must. And it was in those moments when you sit with that where you realize, especially if you're the kind of person that demonizes those that are stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home wives, homemakers, sit in that and realize how much work those women do, and also realize how well they do it and are committed to it every day when they wake up.
Sure.
And how they do it with a smile on their faces, and it fulfills them. And it fulfilled me to wake up in the morning on some days and I got the house clean. I got the kids bathed and dressed in lockdown.
You even baked something.
I cooked a meal. I baked. And then I was able to sit back with a glass of wine and watch a movie.
Sure.
Those were such blissful times.
Absolutely.
You know? And to also know that, okay, there's no deadline chasing me right now.
Yeah.
You know, those were such blissful moments. There are women who do that every day and they have smiles on their faces. I don't think I could do it every day. I know I could do it every now and again. I could probably do it once a week. But there are women that do it every single day with a smile on their faces, and that is their calling.
Sure.
Like kumuntu who is called for that.
Yeah.
For
and
as long as we demonize it,
fulfilled.
we're reducing that,
Sure.
you know, we're reducing that there are people that are called for that in this world.
Sure. That is so powerful. And you know what? I'm not going to try and say anything, because you just, you said it as it should be. We should really give grace, really give these women flowers, because it's so hard. We get to hire 2-3 people to do one person's job. They do it by themselves. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for honoring us, for sharing your journey with us. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much.
And like I said, I cannot wait to see what you are going to be doing.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I will see you on the next episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can be the first to know when we've uploaded something. Until next time, my name is Boledi, and this is Mental Health and Motherhood with Boledi. Bye.